Emily, I hope everybody is doing safe and doing well in this difficult time. I did my research paper on The Raft by Stephen King. It is a short story by King, and it is not very popular, but it's actually a pretty good book. I'm going into what extent does The Raft show how humans react in a crisis situation, and how accurate are King's characters' reactions in this crisis situation, and can the raft help teach us what to do or what not to do in a crisis situation? Stephen King is a very popular writer born in 1947. He grew up mostly in Maine, but also lived in Connecticut and Indiana for several years in his childhood. He's published 58 novels and sold more than 350 million copies. The Raft is a very weird and freaky short story. It really gets down into deep in you. It really scares you. It starts out, these four college students want to go and give a hoorah to their end of summer by going out to this lake and swimming out to this raft, and then just swimming on back and just saying goodbye to summer. Now, the four main characters are Randy, Deke, Laverne, and Rachel. And these four swim out to this raft, and Randy notices this black blob like 40 yards off. And he at first reacts of, is that an oil slick? That can't be anything. And then he sees it coming closer and closer, and he's like, there's no way that this can be coming towards me. What is this thing? And so they all end up barely getting onto the raft before it gets there, and they still don't know what it is or if it can hurt them or what it's even doing. And that starts off the story. And the monster is a mysterious extraterrestrial being, and it lays on top of the water and it has great strength. It is very smart and evolves as the story moves on. It evolves as in, at first it was kind of like slow coming up to him and slow, and it kills Rachel first, and it's slow in doing that. But after that it gets smarter, and it ends up going under the raft and sucking, trying to get him from below. And then it starts going out from under the raft, and then back under the raft and back out under, just to get them thinking and making them be on their heels. It literally sucks in and devours its prey. And what I mean by that is, when it touches a person or whatever it is, it grabs on and won't let go, and it sucks them into them, and it almost grows when it eats somebody. It makes its prey delusional and almost paralyzed if they look into the blackness, and they see callers. It seems like Rachel's caught when she's looking into it on the edge of the raft, saying such beautiful callers. That's really freaky to think about. Rachel, as I said, is the first person to go in the group. She was not very smart in a crisis situation. She didn't really think that this was real, and she kind of just went over to the edge of the raft and grabbed on, or looked straight into it from the beginning and just touched it. Even though, it kind of paralyzed her and she was saying such beautiful callers, so it was in her mind, you still have to think, why would she go up there in the first place? Why would she chance that? And her friends, her three friends, did absolutely nothing. They were panicking and freaking out just like anybody would in a really terrible crisis like they're in. All they did was yell and say, "Hey, get back! What are you doing?" They didn't pull her back or grab her before she touched it or anything. And once she fell in, they just stood there because there was nothing to do at that point. At this point, everybody obviously understands, okay, this is real, and we're in big trouble. Laverne freaks out and is screaming, and Deke and Randy are both threatening to hit her if she doesn't shut up, because she's not helping by freaking out like she is. Deke is the next one to go, as he finally thinks up of something smart and says, "Hey, if we would have just jumped off when it was eating Rachel, we could have gotten out of here while it was busy." And so he thinks if he jumps off and tries to swim to shore, he can outrun it. Well, when he gets 2 feet from trying to jump off, the raft, the monster sucks him in from the bottom of the raft. It grabs his foot and then slowly brings him in. This is a very gory scene. They talk about how he's screaming and yelling and like vomiting. It's really deep scene with Deke. And Randy and Laverne just sit there, and Laverne's screaming and trying to get Randy to hold her, and he finally does. And there's just not much they can do. The blob is just way too strong and pulls them in. Their reactions at this point to the crisis, they're still bad. They're very scared and they don't know what to do, and they're pretty much froze in place. While they could have jumped off the raft and swam towards the car and got there. And Randy even says this once Deke's gone. He said, "Oh, I should have swam. And if Laverne wouldn't have went with me, I could have at least went and got the car and got out." That's the ironic thing about most crises. You're not thinking straight because you're so scared and adrenaline's going everywhere. You don't think about what you're doing or what's going on, really, and except just freaking out. After Deke dies, Laverne and Randy are left by themselves, obviously, and this black blob is just going in and out of the raft, trying to get them, and they're so traumatized at this point that I think, in my opinion, they do this next thing for comfort, maybe to feel safe. I don't really know. They end up having sex on the raft. And this is one of the weirdest places you would ever think to do that at, but they do it anyway. And as they start to do it, Laverne's hair falls into the water, and the black blob comes up and grabs her, and it sucks her in too. And they, as you can tell in this situation, they are not thinking correctly at all. Laverne at this point is screaming and hollering, and Randy can only just stand there because she's already in the water. Their decisions were awful in this scene of the book, and it ended up getting Laverne killed and left Randy to himself. Randy then sat there the whole night, pretty much, and he couldn't sit down. And when he did sit down, he ended up falling asleep. The blob came and almost got him while he passed out for like 5 minutes, or I don't know how long it was. And it's not letting him sit. He's so tired. It's just breaking him down, until finally he ends up just breaking. At the end of the story, he starts saying, "What is love? What is love?" Thinking that he loves this blob, and like thinking, or I think that maybe it's like luring him in, just breaking him down, and thinking that he loves this blob and wants to go to it. Well, finally at the end, he just ends up giving up, like some people do in a crisis situation. If you're completely helpless and have no hope left of getting out of somewhere alive, why would you just want to suffer? You see that in situations where people just either jump off a building because they don't want to burn, like in 9/11, or something horrible like that. You see this in crisis situations, sometimes. The story ends and he's not dead yet, but he is on the edge saying, "What is love? What is love?" And then he's looking straight into it, and he sees the callers, and he's about to fall in when the story ends. I think that this depicts pretty good things to not think about doing in a crisis situation, and also gives us some points of what they could have done, and maybe what you could do in a crisis situation. They could have jumped off when either Rachel or Deke were getting killed and got to a car and went and got help. They could have, tried to decoy it and get out of there, jump off, outswim it like Deke tried to do, but it was on his tail. There's a lot of things that they could have tried to do, but they didn't do. Yeah, thank you.